Have you ever waited to feel motivated before starting something? Maybe you've been waiting to feel motivated to go to the gym, to start the project, to work on your goals. You told yourself, I'll start when I feel ready, when I feel inspired, when I feel like it. And the brutal truth is that motivation is one of the most overrated concepts in personal development. I know that sounds backwards. We're fed a constant stream of motivational content, quotes, speeches, hype videos. But what not many people tell you is that motivation is just an emotion. And emotions are temporary. Waiting for motivation to act is like waiting for the weather to be perfect before you ever leave the house. Sometimes it'll show up, most of the time it won't. Today I want to show you what actually works instead, the systems, structures, and mindset shifts that the most consistent people on the planet use to get things done, whether they feel like it or not. Let's go. Why motivation doesn't work. To understand why motivation fails, you need to understand what it actually is. Motivation is a neurochemical response. It's essentially dopamine, and dopamine is your brain's reward anticipation signal. When you imagine a new goal, losing weight, starting a business, learning something new, your brain releases dopamine in response to the possibility of the reward. That's the buzz you feel at the start of a new project. The excitement of a fresh start. The problem is that dopamine is released in anticipation of the reward, not in response to the work required to get there. The further you get from the exciting start and the deeper into the actual difficult work, the less dopamine, which results in less motivation. This is exactly why motivation is always highest on day 1 and lowest around day 12. Day 1, you've just decided to change your life. Everything feels possible. You're excited, you're energized. Day 12, you've done the boring parts. The novelty is gone, nothing dramatic has happened yet, and you feel nothing. That drop isn't weakness, that's just how the brain works. The problem is that most people interpret that motivational dip as a sign that something is wrong, that they picked the wrong goal, or that they're not cut out for it, and they quit. Right in the middle of exactly where every person goes through the same dip. Motivation got them started, and then motivation left them stranded. Systems over goals. So, if motivation doesn't work, what does? The answer that keeps coming up across psychology, neuroscience, and the habits of the world's most consistent performers is this: systems beat goals. Every single time. A goal is a destination. A system is the road you travel every day to get there. And the crucial insight is you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. James Clear puts it brilliantly in Atomic Habits. The goal was always there. The person who finished the marathon and the person who didn't had the same goal. What was different was the system, the daily run, the consistent training, the structure that didn't depend on motivation to function. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wait to feel motivated to brush your teeth. You just do it. Because it's a system. It's automatic. It doesn't require an emotional state to trigger it. That's what you want for your most important behaviors, not willpower or motivation. A system so ingrained it runs regardless of how you feel. Then the question stops being, do I feel like doing this today? And starts being, what time does this happen? And what does it look like when I do it? That shift alone is worth more than 1,000 motivational quotes. The discipline myth, and what's better? Okay, so if motivation is unreliable, what about discipline? Isn't that the answer? Partly, but discipline is also wildly misunderstood. The popular image of discipline is someone white-knuckling their way through life, fighting their instincts, forcing themselves to do hard things through sheer will. And willpower is real, but it's also a depletable resource. Research by psychologist Roy Baumeister showed that willpower functions like a muscle. It gets tired. The more decisions you make, the more emotional regulation you do, the more resistance you push through, the less willpower you have left. This is why the person who is incredibly disciplined at work often has nothing left for their health or relationships at the end of the day. They used it all up. The smarter approach isn't to have more willpower, it's to need less of it. And you do that through environment design. If you want to eat healthier, don't rely on willpower at the moment of temptation. Change what's in your fridge before the craving hits. If you want to exercise more, don't rely on motivation in the morning. Sleep in your workout clothes. Put your trainers by the door. If you want to read more, don't rely on discipline at night. Put the book on your pillow. Put your phone in another room. The most consistent people aren't the ones with the most willpower. They're the ones who designed their environment so they barely need any. Identity, the deepest level of change. Now here's the layer that takes everything we've talked about even deeper. Systems and environment design are incredibly powerful, but they work best when they're backed by something even more fundamental, identity. Most people try to change their behavior from the outside in. They decide on an outcome. I want to lose 20 pounds. Then they figure out a process. I'll go to the gym 3 times a week. And they hope their behavior follows. But James Clear's research on habits shows that the most durable change works from the inside out. It starts with identity, not I'm trying to get fit, but I am someone who moves their body every day, not I'm trying to write more, but I am a writer, not I want to be more consistent, but I am a consistent person. Because every time you act in alignment with that identity, even in a tiny way, you cast a vote for that version of yourself. Go to the gym for 10 minutes when you said you would, vote for the identity. Write 1 sentence when you said you'd write, vote for the identity. The votes accumulate. And over time, the identity becomes undeniable to you and to your brain. At that point, you're not fighting motivation or willpower anymore. You're just being who you are. The action first principle. There's one more piece to this that flips everything on its head. Most people believe the sequence goes motivation first, then action. Feel inspired, then start. But research in behavioral psychology shows the sequence is actually reversed. Action first, motivation follows. This is called behavioral activation. And it's a core principle in cognitive behavioral therapy for depression. The idea is that you don't wait to feel good to take action. You take action, and the feeling good comes as a result. In practical terms, you don't wait to feel like going to the gym. You go, and 5 minutes in, the motivation shows up. You don't wait to feel like working in your project. You open the file, and 10 minutes in, you're actually engaged. The brain interprets the act of starting as a signal. Oh, apparently we're doing this now, and it adjusts your emotional state accordingly. This is why the 2-minute rule is so powerful. Start anything for just 2 minutes. Not because 2 minutes of work matters, but because 2 minutes almost always turns into 20. You don't need to feel ready, you just need to start. The feeling follows the action, never the other way around. Building your own system, a practical framework. Alright, let's make this practical. Here's a simple framework for building a system that doesn't depend on motivation. Step 1. Identify the one behavior that matters most right now, not 5 behaviors. 1. The thing that, if you did it consistently for the next 90 days, would change things the most. Step 2. Anchor it to something you already do. Psychologists call this implementation intention. After I brush my teeth, I will meditate for 5 minutes. After I make my morning coffee, I will write for 15 minutes. Attaching a new behavior to an existing one dramatically increases the chance it sticks, because you don't have to remember to do it. It triggers automatically. Step 3, make it so small it feels almost embarrassing. 1 page, 5 minutes, 10 push-ups, 1 paragraph. The goal at the start is not results. The goal is to build the identity of someone who shows up. Step 4, track it visibly. A simple calendar where you cross off each day you show up. Jerry Seinfeld called this "don't break the chain." The visual streak becomes motivation in itself, not because of what it represents, but because you genuinely don't want to break it. Step 5. Design your environment to make it easy. Remove the friction between you and the behavior. Add friction between you and the thing that competes with it. Simple, repeatable, consistent. That's a system. Recap time. Let's land the plane. Motivation is an emotion, unreliable, temporary, and completely outside your control. Stop waiting for it. Systems beat goals because systems don't require you to feel anything to function. Discipline matters, but environment design is more powerful. Design your life so you barely need willpower. Identity is the deepest level of change. Become the person. The behaviors follow. Action comes before motivation, not after. Start anyway. The feeling catches up. And build your system, one behavior, anchored to something existing, small enough to feel easy, tracked visibly, and an environment designed to support it. Here's your challenge. Pick one thing you've been waiting to feel motivated to do. Don't wait. Do the smallest possible version of it today, right after this video ends, and come back and tell me in the comments how it went. This is episode 3 of the series. If you haven't watched the others yet, they're linked in the description and they build on each other perfectly. Subscribe so you don't miss next week, and I'll see you in the next one.